Rube. How you feeling?
Doing good. How are you, Dave?
Doing well. Got caught up on some sleep after the late Sunday night game. Feeling good now.
Couple late ones in a row.
Yeah, and that was technically, I guess, like the last real night game because the Eagles have the night game, but for me, I'll be in LA, so it'll be early.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a night game for me, but not for you.
Exactly.
Interesting.
This is the Eagle Eye Podcast brought to you by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. A lot to talk about today. The Eagles will be without their right tackle for at least the next month. So the big news there that we want to talk about a little bit. We want to look at this team in general and the way they've been playing football over the last couple of games and try to figure out whether or not it's actually sustainable. Can they keep winning like this? We talked to all three coordinators on Tuesday, so we have some takeaways there. And then a bunch of questions coming up later in the pod. Some fun ones that came during that game and then after the game. We have some lessons about if you're going to email us during the game, be careful. But let's talk about Lane first. The injury news there is that he has a Lisfranc sprain, out at least 4 to 6 weeks. Hopefully, the hope is that he's able to return in time for the playoffs. But Rube, this is obviously a big loss.
It is, and it's a potentially serious injury. Different grades of it, different levels of it. N'Kobe came back his rookie year, I think, after he missed the last 8 regular season games or 7, came back for the postseason. Deuce missed a year when he had his, which was a tear. So that was worse than what Lane has. But it's a serious injury. And Lisfranc was Napoleon's physician. This injury, and it's interesting that her
name was Liz Frank.
His name, that was his first name. It was like Liz Frank St. Pierre, a Monra St. something. But he noticed that a lot of the Napoleon's cavalrymen who got thrown from their horses had these foot injuries, and it comes from getting your foot caught in the stirrup. And that's where it got its name. It is basically the ligament that attaches the midfoot to the toes. So if you stretch it or tear it, you basically can't. We saw Lane limping off the field. You can't walk. You certainly can't run. So maybe more serious for a skill guy. Maybe a lineman can come back sooner, but it's certainly a serious thing. And there's a chance he'll be back for the postseason, but I don't think it's a lock. I think the Eagles are hopeful. You know, Lane's going to put everything he has into the rehab, and we'll see. You know, he's had a tough year. He's had 4 different injuries, right? I mean, he's had the neck, he's had the ankle, he's had this, he's had something else. So he's played well when he's been healthy, but man, they need to get him back.
Yeah, and look, he's a 35-year-old offensive lineman. As well as he's played in recent years, there's injury risk involved with having a guy this long in the tooth that you rely on this much. But you're right, he's been so good when he's out there. It's funny, I got a tweet notification. Someone mentioned this too, that I was thinking as well. There goes his chance to win that Protector of the Year award, which is the first year they're doing it. And if he's healthy, like he's still, to me, one of, if not the best tackle in football.
I know he was the best in that game Sunday night when he played.
Those 14 snaps.
Well, I just mean he was the best in the game, not on Sunday, but just the best in the game. But it also hurts, like he's not going to make All-Pro, which I think he had a chance for, and he probably won't make the Pro Bowl, although some guys have made it with 10 games. I doubt he will. And that hurts his Hall of Fame chances, honestly. It doesn't help. So the more of those honors you can rack up, I mean, even if he played 12 or 13 games, he would probably make the Pro Bowl. But really, in the immediate, it's a matter of Big Fred, who's a solid guy. He's not Lane. But they're lucky they got him back from Jacksonville, certainly.
Yeah, he's not Lane, but he's also not Matt Pryor. And no shade of Matt Pryor, but that would have been their option had they not gone out and traded for Big Fred. It was a 2026 7th-round pick to get Fred back, which he was probably going to get released by Jacksonville, but they made sure they got their guy. And we saw how much he can mean to this team. We saw it last year, and we're going to see it this year. I mean, there's a big drop-off from Lane Johnson to Fred Johnson, but there's also a really big drop off from Fred Johnson to whoever else was going to be their option there, whether it was Matt Pryor or Kendall Lamb or one of the rookies. Like it matters having Big Fred.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big move bringing him back. Didn't seem it at the time. Seemed like, all right, you got a backup tackle here. But I thought last year, I think he played 5 games at left and 1 game at right, I believe. He was good. And, he wasn't dominating. There were times where he struggled. He had bad plays. But you're not going to get a 5-time All-Pro, for a 7th-round pick or 6th-round pick. So they're lucky they have him. They're lucky they brought him back. He's a guy that's going to work. He's going to study. He's going to do everything he can to get the most out of what he has. And he'll give you honest effort. So it could be a lot worse, but he's also like when you lose a Lane Johnson and have a backup, like the longer it goes, the more you're going to miss him. And that's just any backup, with a star player. But if Lane can get back at the end of the season or the playoffs, you're going to be that much better then.
Yeah, so it's been called a 4 to 6 week injury. That's the early timetable for him. Now they have to see, but if that is the case, yeah, there are 7 weeks left of the season. They have 7 more games, so we're talking about could he be back for maybe the last couple of games of the regular season if they're fighting for seeding potentially. The big boost would obviously be to get him back for the playoffs, to have him healthy. We don't have to go over the record with and without Lane Johnson. We know how important he is, but I think we've talked about this before, but so much of their offense, which isn't very good at all right now, but so much of it is predicated on letting those tackles just live on islands. And when you have a backup in there, you're still going to try to do that as much as possible, but you're aware of it more, and you're going to do it a little bit less, and you're not going to be as successful when you do it.
Yeah, that's all true. You really have to change a lot in the offense, and yeah, it's not like it's going well right now. So, and I think the other part of the equation is just like Cam left the game again. So, I mean, he's banged up. We don't know what his status is going to be. I still think Landon's not quite the Landon that we're used to, and may not be this year, although certainly he's better than the alternative. Tyler Steen's played pretty much. I think he missed 5 snaps in 1 game, and Mulata's played every snap. So you have 2 of the 5 guys have been healthy, and the other 3 spots have just been in flux. So, like, if you're missing Cam and Lane, I mean, it kind of compounds the more guys you're missing. And it's not like the guy who plays in between them. Like, if you're Tyler Steen and you got Lane on your right and Cam Jurgens on your left, your chances of playing well are much better than if you have Brett Toth on your left and Fred Johnson on your right. So the whole line has just been decimated all year, and here we go again.
Side note here, having a backup tackle named Johnson replacing the starter named Johnson is kind of a nightmare for a writer, because normally you go like last name on second and subsequent references. But when you have 2 Johnsons, you have to just keep going full names the whole time.
This is true.
This is the plight of a NFL beat writer.
I think my thing is if you've only mentioned Lane like in the first paragraph and then it's Fred the rest of the way, I wouldn't write Fred every time.
Yeah, you can feel it out a little bit.
Like once you're done with the last Lane, maybe the next one's Fred, and then you go just Johnson. But you can also usually tell from context, and if you can't, then you put the first name in. Yeah. A little shop talk here.
Yep. Back from the side note there. You're right. The offensive line injuries have been a big deal this year, and I think it's unfair to just dismiss the offensive problems by saying their line hasn't been healthy. There are clearly more problems than just that, but I think it's kind of where it starts. I think if the line is an elite offensive line, if they're playing the way they played last year, I think it naturally covers up a lot of the other blemishes that we've seen come to light with this offensive structure, with the play caller, with the quarterback, with the receivers. Like, I think a lot of those issues get covered up when the line is playing at an elite level, and they just haven't been that this year.
Yeah, no, they haven't. And they're not going to be for the foreseeable future. It just struck me. What if the Eagles had both Byron Youngs? How would you have to use a middle initial every time you referred to either one? How would you do that?
Well,
it was a great play by Byron Young.
They played different positions. Maybe
Yeah,
call
but
them the defensive tackle Byron Young versus the outside linebacker Byron Young.
I think using middle initial would be the way to go because they
Okay.
both play on defense. So Byron Young got a sack. You know, what are you going to say, linebacker? Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell Howie not to acquire him.
He'll do it. He'll
He will
do
just
it.
yeah, just to make our lives
Yeah.
a little more difficult. But yeah, all that's true. And man, it's just one more thing for this offense to try to figure things out with missing a 5-time All-Pro. It's not getting easier.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you look at the offensive performance the last 2 weeks and you're going, man, this is really bad. You got to fix it. You got to figure it out. Oh yeah, your best player is not going to be on the field with you. Like it's really tough, and it's why, like, you know, if you watch the offense the last 2 weeks and you're sitting there at home thinking, I don't have a lot of confidence this is going to get better. I don't know how to talk you down other than to say, like, they still have good players, even without Lane. Like, they still have good players, and the hope is that eventually those good players win out. But it's become so reliant on those good players. The scheme is a mess. Play calling's a mess. Uh, I kind of understand the frustration there. On the flip side of it, we're in a lot of football games, Rube.
Yeah. I just, the thing that's most alarming for me is, like, after the Minnesota and the second Giants game going to the bye, we started to see some real progress. And I was, I guess, deluded into believing that they had figured some things out on offense and they would come back for the bye like they did last year. It was earlier, but they came back and they had a real offense and they ran it and they won a Super Bowl. And
although I think that's a reasonable takeaway from those two games.
Oh yeah.
Especially because, like, we know the talent's there. So, like, if they start to show it, why wouldn't we believe they could change?
Yeah. So that's what's like to take this big a step backwards 2 weeks in a row. And God bless the defense for winning these two games, because that's all it was, and special teams, I guess. But they're not going to play like that every week. They're not. It's impossible. Like, I think they're one of the best defenses in the league right now, but they're not going to hold the Cowboys to 7 or 9 points. And I don't think.
I know, but you said that about the Lions too, after the Green Bay game.
Yeah, I probably did. I guess what I'm trying to say is, as good as the defense has played and as impressed as I am, and I think they're just going to keep getting better. We've said that all year. I just don't think you can win a Super Bowl without an offense. You can't win a Super Bowl scoring 10 or 12 or 16 points a game. You just can't. And
I'm giving you a hard time, but I totally agree.
How is it going to, like, why, like you said, like, why should we believe it's going to get better?
Well, if you're looking for reasons it's going to get better, I think you can. It's dangerous to do this, but you can point to last year a little bit where the passing offense really struggled, and then in the biggest games of the season when it mattered most, they figured it out. Now, the difference between this year and last year is last year they were really able to hang their hat on the run game, and it was like, okay, if the passing game isn't getting going, it's okay because you have the run game. You're going to be able to lean on teams and bully them in that way. And right now with the line playing the way it is, like, you don't have that. So, but I mean, I think there's some history to lean on there and say they've figured things out before. You can look at the talent, and there are questions about, is AJ still the same player? Is Jalen playing the style of football that would bring about a change offensively and make them better? Like, I think there are questions in all that, but there's no doubt there's still a lot of talent on that side of the football.
Yeah, and the other question there that goes along with those that you just posed is, is Saquon part of the problem, or is it all the O-line? And pretty much all year, I felt like it was just the O-line. I just wonder now, like, when you see Tank Bigsby, who's not, like, he's a nice player and he runs hard, but I'm going to give you a stat, Dave. I know I'm not really a big stat guy, but during the 4-game,
you like that joke, don't you?
Yeah, I do. During the 4-game winning streak, Saquon's had 80 carries, most in the league over the last 4 games. Tank Bigsby's had 17. But Tank has 7 runs of 10 yards or more, so 10 out of 17 of his carries. And Saquon has just 5, so 5 out of 80. So And I'm under no illusions that Tank Bigsby, if you gave him a little bit more, he would maintain that pace and keep averaging 9 yards a carry. But I am curious why the holes are there when Tank runs and they're not there when Saquon runs. It's curious to me. And
Yeah, I get that. I think it's probably too small of a sample size to really
probably
draw that conclusion. And I think some of it is just happenstance, honestly.
7 runs at 10 yards or more in the last 4 games.
Yeah, no, I know. I think
There's
the
only
sample
10
size.
running backs that have more over the last month, and he
Okay.
barely plays.
Yeah.
So maybe it's coincidence, but it's
I think there's some coincidence baked into it. I don't think it's all coincidence. I think he's a good player, Tank Bigsby. Like he's been a relatively high level, high caliber NFL running back, so it's not like he's coming out of nowhere doing this. I think with Saquon, the one thing I am noticing now is that he's at sometimes he's kind of reverting to Giants Saquon where the holes aren't there and he's trying to make too much happen. Uh, I see that a little bit, and I understand that because it's like it's frustrating. You're trying to make the most out of the holes that aren't there, but sometimes when you do that, you end up taking like more negative plays and
yeah.
things like that.
And he had a -6 or a -8 in there. I think he had a -8.
Mhm.
So he averaged 3.2 yards a carry. If you just take the -8 out there, which is no fault of his own, now he's at 4.0 or just over 3.9. So I agree with that. And how do you tell Saquon, like, don't try to make a big play? Like, I still think the way the offense is right now, if that puts you at 2nd and 16, you're not getting out of it. So just take the -1 and live with it. And maybe they can convert a 2nd and 11, get a 3rd and 4, whatever. But I mean, the lack of a running game, an authoritative running game they can really hang their hat on, is really hampering the offense because, now they're throwing in situations where last year they would have run it. And he's getting stuffed. He's getting stuffed on 3rd and shorts and 2nd and shorts. And
I actually think for a lot of this year, and I think this was one of AJ Brown's points when he eloquently expressed all of his frustrations and concerns with the offense. Well, one of them was basically like, it's a different year, and I don't think this was, maybe it was a little veiled, but it's like, you can't just expect the offense to be what it was last year. You have to be able to change. And I think part of that is realizing that the run game isn't what it used to be. And you're living in a different world where you have to make the offense work, knowing that you can't just lean on teams the way you did last year.
yeah, I'm not sure this offensive coaching staff's equipped to do that. Right? They put all their eggs in the Saquon basket. They give him a big contract, 26 carries Sunday. And maybe for that game, that made sense. Don't turn it over. You're probably going to win that game again. And they didn't.
Yeah, so that's the other part of it is, they're not turning the football over. They have 1 turnover in the last 2 games. They're winning that battle, and the 1 turnover came after a really nice play, a nice play design, that QB design draw
Down to the 14.
Yeah. So like I think it is tough to open up the offense when you're playing conservative ball. On the flip side, like your defense is playing so well, you can't be completely like loose with the ball and try to push the ball down. So I think there is a balance to strike there, but I also think they've been too risk averse.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think Jalen's been too risk averse. We see the turn downs in the offense, passes it like I don't know, they're there. Like we saw the clip of Devontae a couple games ago just throw the bleeping ball. I kind of agree with him, and I understand the frustration as a receiver. Like you feel like sometimes if you win, you're open, and the quarterback goes, no. I understand the frustration in that.
Yeah, you don't want to throw interceptions, but I would take 28 points in interception over 16 points and no interceptions. Eagles only have 4 turnovers all year.
Fewest in the league.
It equals the fewest ever by a team through 10 games, which is crazy. The Bills set the record last year for fewest turnovers in the season with 8. I'm not saying it would be good to have some turnovers, but I think for this offense to kickstart, they're going to have to try to do more. You can't just – and I think in bad weather, maybe in cold and windy and that kind of game, maybe playing to not turn it over makes sense.
There's a bunch of ways to explain it away.
Yeah, but that's not going to be the case in Dallas. Where's that stadium? Irvington? No, Texas Stadium was Irvington.
It's Arlington.
Arlington, yeah. Across the street from that big Walmart. They still park in the Walmart?
They don't actually. We're in a different lot, but it is funny to me. There's a Walmart next to AT&T Stadium, and sometimes on a Sunday, there's people just like going to Walmart to shop. There's like 15 Walmarts in the Dallas area. I don't know why you'd go to the one next to the stadium on game day.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fair point. They used to park us in that lot. There's a section of the Walmart lot reserved for media parking, which is just
one beat reporter who will remain nameless.
Yeah,
once did not park in the spot where he was supposed to and got the rental car towed.
Yes, he did. But if you see a bunch of like TV satellite trucks, that's probably the area you should park. But anyway, yeah, I think that's a really fair point. I mean, I keep writing in my stats column every week, like all these great Jalen interceptions. He's got like 2 interceptions in the last like 600 passes. And on the one hand, I mean, he's up to 6th all time in fewest interceptions, as a ratio per 100 attempts. But that's not always good. I mean, because if you're playing not to turn the ball over, you're not playing to score points.
And I understand their point that like every game it dictates a different tact.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, 10 points and 16 points coming out of the bye week, it's probably not going to be good enough the rest of the way. Now, I don't think
it will against the Raiders.
Yeah.
Boy, are they bad.
Yeah, they're really bad. Cowboys look good.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much of that is Cowboys look good versus Raiders look bad, but
I was just looking, and how did I lose this page already? The Cowboys wins have been against the Giants, the Jets, the Commanders, and the Raiders.
Taking care of business.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think they've gotten better defensively with Quinn Williams. Played well yesterday.
Yeah, he did. He's a good player.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was really the smartest move at that point for where they were, but he has made them better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting game. I don't think it's going to be a walkover Sunday.
Yeah, I don't either.
We'll have time to talk about it Thursday.
Plenty of time to talk about it. I do want to talk about the Eagles' defense because despite all the angst in this town right now about the offense, the defense, I do not think this is a fluke. Now, you're right. I mean, are they going to hold every team under 10 points? Like, probably not. But I don't think it's a fluke either. I think this defense...
Well, they didn't hold the Lions under 10 points. Oh, yes, they did. I'm sorry. Oh, my God. I just said the dumbest thing I've ever said in the history of this podcast. Just ignore me.
I was like, I think I know what the score was.
You're right. I'm wrong. It was just, at least I realized it as soon as I said it.
I don't even know if I would have called you out on that because you said it so confidently. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I don't know if they're going to do that every week, but I don't think it's fluky. I think they can maintain a really high level of success the rest of the year, barring injury, which is every team in the league. I think they have the pieces to be excellent and maybe even get better. Like maybe they won't hold every team to 9 points or 7 points, but I think they have the opportunity to get better throughout the rest of the year. And that's really exciting. And you can see like the Eagles are now Super Bowl favorites. So as much as we're talking about, they can't score, but they're Super Bowl favorites. Yeah. So, they're in a good position. And I understand that why not everyone, but I understand why people are really concerned about the offense right now. And I think there's reason to be, but they're in a good spot.
Yeah. And 2 things. A, thanks for going easy on me after I said that. I just don't know what I was thinking. But B, if you watch the first Dallas game and some of those early games, and they played well on defense in the first Dallas game, the Rams, the Chiefs, they played well. Other than really the Giants game, but they're a different defense now. And I mean, we talked to Vic today. We'll get to that, but like Jalen Carter's a different guy. I think obviously Nakobe wasn't playing. Jalen Phillips wasn't here. I think the cornerback play has solidified. You asked Vic about Andrew Makuba. He's playing more consistently than he was in the first few games of his career. things have changed. Jahad Campbell's role has changed. Cooper's role has changed, where he's he's outside in base. It's just a different defense, and the additions. I mean, Nolan. I don't think Nolan was really even 100%, and he's not playing a ton right now. But he missed 5 games, so getting him back, it's a different defense, and they're fun to watch. Yeah, I'm trying to think like who's got a better defense in the NFL right now.
There isn't one.
Probably
based
not.
on the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, limited sample size, sure.
Statistically, sure. I don't even know, what are they up to in defense? Have you checked that? I haven't even looked at that. They're still 17th. I think they're better, although they're 13th in yards per play. Scoring there, looks like they're 11th. But yeah, to me, this is.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, though, it's a different defense. Eye test tells you they're really good right now. So, like, getting to the big question is this sustainable? I think part of it is. Like, I think that they can be a grinded out type of team, but you can also acknowledge that at some point the offense is going to need to be better. It just is. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of some of the talking points last year that, like, there was angst around the offense because we knew it needed to be better, and it was when it mattered. I don't know if that's going to happen again.
Well, let's look at it this way. Like, how many wins will it take to get the number 1 seed? Now, they're sitting here 8-2. Like, they have 4 games against losing teams right now. So Dallas, the Raiders, Washington. Now, if they win those 4, that gets them to 12, and that leaves 3 games. It leaves the Bears, Chargers, and Bills. If they just win one of those, they're at 13. And maybe the Rams get to 13. The Eagles have a tiebreaker over them. Maybe somebody else does. If Tampa does, the Eagles they're not. The Eagles have a tiebreaker over them. Seattle, they have that extra NFC loss right now. I get, but that loss to the Rams was huge for the Eagles. I mean, that was a big result for the Eagles. They have a better chance of being a tiebreaker against the Rams than the Seahawks. So, like, who else can if they take care of business in those games against losing teams, which is not a lock, and they can certainly beat Chicago and whatever, but like, who else can get where they are other than Seattle? I mean, maybe the 49ers. They're sitting at 7-4. But if the Eagles get to 13, I think they're going to be the number 1 seed, and. Can they go 5-2? I think they can, if the defense is playing the way they have been.
Yeah. Jalen Phillips would like that. He'd like a bye week.
He hasn't had one.
He's not going to get one unless they get that first seed.
Still don't like that rule. I like having 2 teams with a bye, but
there's more incentive, certainly.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they're in a great like, if they win Sunday, I think their magic number to win the division goes down to 2, with a month and a half left in the season. So they're sitting in a really good spot, despite all these issues. But I still think the offense has to be appreciably better to really make a run.
Yeah. The NFC East is the only division where the second place team has a losing record.
Do you know no NFC East team? Well, I guess that ended last night, or with the Cowboys beating the Raiders. That was the first win by a division team over a non-division team since week 5. So, I mean, the rest of the division is just not great.
Let's take a break. When we get back, I want to go over some stuff Vic Fangio, Kevin Patullo, Michael Clay said, and then a ton of questions to get to.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Back on the Eagle Eye Podcast, brought to you by Nissan, Reuben Frank, and Dave Zangaro. Talk to Vic Fangio. Talk to Michael Clay. Talk to Kevin Patullo on Tuesday. Let's start with Vic, always the most entertaining of the bunch. Nice plug for Eastern football.
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Yeah, Eastern. What's their nickname?
Hmm,
We know
good question.
Eastern's nickname. This is not Eastern High School. They're the Vikings. But Eastern, I guess Howie's assistant's husband is on the coaching staff at Eastern.
Eastern University is. I don't know what
It
they
doesn't say on their website. That's what are you doing?
are.
What do you do? Maybe they don't have one.
The Eagle.
The Eagle? Just Eagle singular?
Yeah, singular
Like the Cardinal?
Eagle. Yeah, I think. That could be wrong. That's what showed up. Eagle.
It doesn't say.
But he gave him a nice shout out to finish the presser. But he said a lot during the press conference too.
Yeah.
If I can get you back on that.
As I search for Eastern's nickname, their slogan appears to be "Live with courage." It's good sentiment. Their volleyball team apparently won the MAC. Women's volleyball. Doesn't say their nickname anywhere in any of these stories.
They're the Eagles. They're not singular. I don't know why that popped up. They're the Eastern University Eagles.
Okay, well, they're not real proud of it. All right, I'm going to close this out.
They're in the D3 playoffs.
Who do they open with?
I don't know. Can we get back
What
to
if it's Mount Union versus
Eastern? Can we get back
Eastern?
to the other Eagles?
Who's Howie going to root for if it's Mount Union versus Eastern? In the final. Like his coach or his assistant's husband. Who do you? Anyway. What was the question?
There was no question. Vic Fangio talked about these Eagles a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's just bounce it back and forth. Give me one takeaway from Vic.
Well, you asked him about Drew Makuba, and he is playing more consistently. And he talked about, you're going to have to live with when you're starting a couple rookies, and you're going to live with their mistakes. And Makuba is a guy that is around the ball and makes plays, but he also early in the year was giving up big plays, but he hasn't lately.
To be fair, he hasn't made many big plays either, but
I don't think they've come to him.
Yeah, I think there's been just a more level, consistent play from him.
Yeah, and he agreed with that and acknowledged it, and that's big because teams are going to go after the weak link, and maybe it's still him, but he's playing better. And that's encouraging when you see these young guys improve like that.
Yeah, not always a good sign when you're not noticing a safety. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. In his case, I think it's probably a good thing because you're right. Early in the season, he was giving up plays, and we haven't seen that from him recently. And I think that matters.
Yeah.
Okay. I will go with Nolan Smith, still on a pitch count. Vic said he doesn't really know why. It could be the physically, or it could be ramping him up, but whatever. He is told that Nolan is still on a pitch count, so that's why we're seeing the snap numbers what they are. I would think it's going to ramp up.
I would think so. What do you call them? The snap count, please?
Not today, but he has called them. He has spoken about snap count police before.
Spoke really highly of Nakobe and just how he's been able to kind of really quickly get to the level he's at, which was maybe even better than he was playing last year. He was really good last year. And just how smart he is, and how he was how he understands the defense so well that he can just come in after missing 9 months and just be Nakobe. He's playing great.
He really is. Vic pointed that his instincts, football IQ is the reason he's been able to pick up where he left off and maybe even be better.
Maybe.
Which is crazy because he played at such a high level. He did say that the rotation at inside linebacker is going to stay around the same. It's been more Nakobe than Jihad Campbell. I wonder how long it's going to stay like that. If Nakobe keeps playing like this, at a certain point you can't take him off the field. So I'm kind of curious, which is through no fault of Jihad Campbell's. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think he's a good player right now, but Nakobe Dean's just a difference maker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess, what do you got? I think it's your turn here. I don't know.
Yeah, what else do I have?
I asked him about the fourth downs.
Sure.
He said there's no real secret to it. It's just good players making plays.
Yeah, I don't think it was any common theme, really.
Just really solid play. I think it was, pressure and coverage, and that's what you get. he talked about. Well, you go ahead. What do you have? I can
Well,
tell.
with the fourth down that was the fake punt,
Yeah.
apparently that's like Clay's call.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me.
Well,
Obviously, Nick has the power to veto anything and overrule anyone, but I thought that was an interesting kind of something we found out. We actually found out information at a press conference today.
Hard to believe. And yeah, I think in a play like that, like just mental acuity is so important. Like you can, and Clay talked about this in detail. We'll talk about it, but just knowing that there's really a chance that they're gonna run a fake. It's easy to just go out there and say, oh, they might run a fake, but to actually be that engaged in the snap and have the recognition and see how the play's evolving and be able to make that play. It's a smart team. It's a smart defense. And I think that play showed it.
I still can't believe the Lions ran it.
It
doesn't make any sense.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, I don't. They had some weird decisions, and that was one I still don't quite understand.
He also talked about Jalen Carter and just how I think I asked him, I'm not sure, about how his conditioning has gotten to the point where he's really playing a lot better than he was earlier in the season. You can see it. I mean,
conditioning and health.
Conditioning and health. He had the shoulder.
He had the foot injury as well.
Yeah. So, like, he's not making a ton of splash plays he did last year, but he's playing at a really high level.
I mean, maybe not splash plays that show up in the stat sheet.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Okay, yeah. He's making splash plays.
He's making big plays. Yeah,
like they're not showing up in the stat sheet all the time, but he bowled over the guard a few times in that game.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I say splash plays, I mean like sacks, forced fumbles, that kind of thing, tackle for loss. But he's playing at a really high level.
Yeah, I mean, there was one, he just blew up a play. He somehow speared the guard and took him down. It was brutal. Yeah, I think he's playing at a really, really high level. Vic gave credit to Clint Hurt for adding the tip drill for the defensive lineman, which obviously paid off 5 batted passes between Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. So as much as Nick will never tell us who deserves credit for anything, Vic will. That's nice.
Vic will tell us anything. Nick won't tell us anything.
That's all I had from Vic. You good?
Talked about Bud Grant again.
He did.
But and always enjoy our time with Vic. We only talk to him once a week.
We want to get back to Michael Clay and skip over to Kevin Patullo. Obviously, a lot of questions for Patullo, who is a little less giving in a press conference setting, but all the questions are fair about this offense right now.
So we going Patullo here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the only thing of substance, I asked him about, like, what's the one, these last 2 games, what's the one thing that's most frustrating for him? And, he said it's just being behind the sticks, penalties on first down.
Which is really what they've said all year, and it's not true.
Right.
But sometimes, to me, they act like they've been thrown into these situations. They created these situations.
Exactly. And I think those aren't the result of play calls, although he also talked about, losses on first down. And you're
look, some of the play calls do lend themselves, like a tunnel screen that their MA's on, that's going to be a negative play. So sometimes play call does factor in.
No question about it. And I just get the sense that he's kind of, he doesn't have any answers. That's the sense I get. He doesn't have any answers. I don't know how it's going to change if he keeps calling plays. I've been saying it for a while. I just don't see this getting appreciably better unless the play caller changes. Mm-hmm. I just don't.
He was asked about the A.J. Brown third down. It was a 3rd and 15 down the left sideline. The play where, maybe A.J. wasn't running, and he obviously publicly is never going to throw him under the bus, but he said he thought, A.J. got kind of tangled up with the DB. Maybe he didn't see the ball, which I thought was weird. It's maybe he didn't see the ball. You haven't talked to him about that play?
That was weird.
Yeah. But I think that's a fair question too. It's a play where, this is a guy who's been complaining about the offense, and there's a play to be made, or at least a chance for that, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, and AJ's body language is not great lately. you're complaining about targets, although he says it's not about targets. But when you do get a target, catch the ball, make an effort toward it. It's not good. There's nothing encouraging about where the offense is. It's just there's nothing. And
all right, little mini Dave's positivity corner
Okay.
about the offense. Let's try to find something. All right.
Tank Bigsby.
They went back to the QB draw.
Yeah.
In this game after Jalen fumbled on one in Green Bay. I think there's still some meat on the bone.
That was a nice run he had.
I think there's some meat on the bone still when it comes to using Jalen as a runner.
Okay.
Maybe that'll help open up the run game a little bit if they lean on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think yeah, definitely.
Well, we also saw like late in this game the zone read, or actually it was an RPO out of nowhere, and then a zone read after that. Those have kind of disappeared.
I do think when they say like we're really close with Saquon, I do think there's something to that. I just don't know if like real close in football is like the guy makes a tackle, like when you think he can get like 18 yards. I just think with this offensive line, if Cam's not playing and Lane's not playing, I just don't know if you're going to make those plays. I mean, it's hard to imagine that Saquon might finish the season like under 4 yards a carry. I guess they're not going to like celebrate when he goes over 1,000, which he will. But after 2,000, getting like, 1,088 is not like something to celebrate. I think I'm almost more confident that they can get Saquon going than they can get the passing offense going. Although we've seen them both have good days, maybe 3 or 4 times.
Glimpses.
Yeah.
Fleeting.
What do you have more confidence in, the passing game getting going or the running game?
The problem is I think so much of it stems from the offensive line play that it's going to be tough to really do either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still with you on the run game because I think they're so hell-bent on wanting to do that they're going to keep trying it as much, and I still believe in Saquon. So.
Yeah, and also I think like we're getting to December and January football where you don't know what the weather's going to be like when you're playing outdoors or in the Northeast.
Sometimes you don't know what it's going to be with the glare in Dallas in Newark Stadium.
How about that? Yeah, but I'm not super confident either one.
Is that going to be an issue this game? Yeah, it probably will be. 3:25 Central Time start.
Yeah.
So crazy, you won't just put up the shades.
That is.
Michael Clay.
Yeah.
We don't have to spend a ton of time, but he did talk about the 4th down and the fake punt.
Yeah.
And stay fit, by the way, on the other sideline.
That's right. Longtime Eagles special teams coach. I sat next to Fit flying out to Indy for the combine. And we talked the whole flight, and we never talked about football. We just talked about like our families and stuff like that. But good dude.
Sometimes when I sit next to someone on a plane, I don't like that I know, but I didn't go there with them. I almost really don't like it because then there's a lot of pressure to talk to them and to like find conversation the whole time. Whereas on the plane, you know me, I want to throw the headphones on and go to sleep.
Yeah, we never really sat. Did we ever? I guess a couple times we sat next to each other, but usually
I probably didn't talk to you.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I don't talk to anyone on planes.
My feelings were really hurt. No, I try not to either. But when I did travel, but yeah, I think the thing that struck me was just how prepared they were for that fake. And again, I don't know why they ran it when they saw the Eagles defense out there, but that was the product of advanced scouting. It was a product of preparation. They talked about it during the week. They knew that Dan Campbell, what was the number, had run 12 fakes, or the Lions had run 12 fakes since 21, since Campbell got there. So they knew, and they knew that he's run it from, well inside the 50 or even the 40. So it was really interesting just what went into them, the players kind of knowing that this was a possibility, and the coaching staff, and leaving the defense out there is Clay's call, as you said. But it was really interesting to hear him talk about that. Like, we usually don't have a whole lot to ask Michael Clay.
I always do.
I mean, I asked him something, but he was.
I asked about the long snapper making 2 tackles.
Yes,
today.
you did, and I asked him about Jake Elliott making 3 bad weather kicks, which is kind of an underrated little aspect of that game. If I had one more observation, if I had 11, I would have written about Jake, but I didn't. Ran out of observations.
You end up putting A's and B's in there anyway, don't you?
Yeah, but they have to be related.
Okay.
And I usually, that's really just with stats and with the Saturday obs. But
Okay.
the game night obs, I don't want to clutter them with A's and B's and C's. I did go down to F after the second Giants game with my Jalen stats. I just had a lot of stats. But anyway, that was very interesting to me, just what went into preparing for that play and being ready for it and defending it.
Yeah. All right. You want to get to some questions here?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions and not enough time for all of them. So if you have one for us, eagle@nbcuni.com. First one from Michael. Hey, Dave and Rube. Listening to your post-game pod, you both seem convinced Kevin Patullo should be replaced as play caller. My question isn't if he should be, but why hasn't it happened already? Real quick, I'm not as far on that as Rube is. Just to be clear, I think you'd agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have
You did say the play calling is a mess.
It is a mess. Yes. We'll get to, I think the answers here are going to show you why I maybe wouldn't make the change.
Yeah.
Optics. Is the team simply afraid to make the change while 8-2? Are they worried they'll be blamed for messing up a winning record if things go wrong? Friendship. Is Nick Sirianni's personal friendship with Patullo the real issue preventing a move? This is a Super Bowl window, and it feels like a disservice to the team to not make the change. But if Howie has to step in and force it, that shows a major lack of confidence in his head coach, which isn't ideal either. Ultimately, doesn't Nick have to be the one to make this move and show he can put the Super Bowl goal ahead of personal loyalty?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't think that's it. I think it really has more to do with there's no Shane Steichen in the building.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the reason I hesitate to make the switches, because I don't know if the alternatives are better.
Yeah, and if if it gets worse, I don't know how it could get worse, but you're 8-2. I don't know how many teams are replacing a coordinator at 8-2. So I think, as much as I do I'd like to see what it would look like with somebody else doing it, I kind of get it. Like, that's a major change, and in midstream, we've seen that not work. We have seen it work. That was earlier. He's not going to do it. I think if he was going to do it, he would have done it by now. Well,
and the time that they made the play caller switch, he knew the guy they were taking it from wasn't going to get mad because he was taking it from himself.
Right.
And as far as the friendship angle, I think Nick is pretty callous when it comes to that. Obviously, he values personal relationships. He fired DK McDonald, the groomsman in his wedding.
Yeah.
Like, he was really close. So I think he's willing to be tough on the coaches. And from what I've heard from the coaches, like, he can kind of be a nightmare in the building if he thinks they've screwed up. Like, I know he's not going to throw them under the bus publicly, and he doesn't do that with players or coaches, but everything I've heard is about, like, him behind the scenes is like, he's a bit of a tyrant when it comes to the coaches and correcting their mistakes.
Yeah. That said, I mean, would you be shocked if let's say they're losing 13-3 at halftime, they come out in the third quarter and somebody else has the clipboard, has a play call sheet?
I'll tell you what, I've started to watch the sideline.
Yeah.
Like, just to see if it looks like anyone else is calling them.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. And I got a lot of sideline watching. I'm watching that, and I'm watching 11. See what he's doing.
Yeah.
Rick. Jalen Phillips sure seems to be the real deal, and he's excited to be here. I agree with you both about Nakobe Dean, but I think we have the linebacker positions locked down, but obviously we missed the Josh Sweat type. Would you agree that the money would better be spent on an excited Phillips compared to a linebacker that is only 50% utilized?
No. I mean, if it's one or the other.
Sure, yeah. Which is like, hey, it's not a crazy thing. They're both on expiring contracts, and they're going to have to prioritize this offseason.
I also think Jalen Phillips will probably be more expensive than Nakobe.
Mm-hmm. By the nature of the position.
Yeah, nature of the position. And, yeah.
It's honestly a little tough to figure out. We're ahead of ourselves a little bit, but
Nakobe's value.
Jalen's value.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably both.
I think it's actually tougher to figure out. It's more tougher. It's tougher to figure out Jalen's value than it is Nakobe's.
I mean, I guess my thinking with Nakobe was just, would we have a good sense the rest of the year what kind of player he is, and that's been answered.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be
the problem with Jalen Phillips is like, even if he plays really well the rest of the year, is there going to be faith that this year wasn't just a fluke with him staying healthy?
Yeah, that's all fair.
And probably a more significant investment.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you could only keep one, it would be Jalen Phillips, I think.
You have Jahai Campbell.
Yeah.
And it's like, I on his face, like, how could you ever lose Nakobe Dean? He's so freaking good.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one from AJ.
Oh.
I don't think AJ Brown.
Any biblical verses in this one?
No, I don't think. I do you think we've heard Sal Palantonio reported that in his conversation with Jeffrey Lurie, AJ promised not to vent on social media anymore. Maybe this is a roundabout way. Maybe if he emails us. So AJ, if you're listening, eagle@nbcuni.com. Happy to get out whatever you have to say.
Good idea.
I don't think this is from AJ. Had a question regarding Saquon.
Oh, this is from AJ. Just might be a different one. Hey, this is AJ Feely.
Had a question regarding Saquon. Has he lost a step? Did last season put more wear on the tires than we realized? Watching him versus Tank Bigsby's burst, and there seems to be a difference in their first steps and how they hit the hole.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on that. I'm more inclined to answer that now with I'm not sure than a month ago when I said I don't think so. I think it's all the O-line.
I can feel you're starting to drift a little bit from that.
Yeah, I just don't know anymore. I think Saquon ran really hard on Sunday night. He had some nice runs. He had a good, he had a 12 that was called back by a penalty that didn't affect the play. He had a $150 a couple weeks ago, which kind of got me thinking that's what we were going to see the rest of the year. I just don't know. And it'll be interesting to see if Bigsby, and look, I'm under no illusions that Tank Bigsby is any sort of long-term answer at running back. He's a nice change of pace guy. And I like Shipley as well, but it'd be interesting to see if Saquon's numbers continue to be pedestrian, whether Bigsby and Shipley do play a bigger role. Because if you're getting, and I'm not saying he's going to keep getting 9 yards a pop, which I think his average is like 9, Bigsby that is, and Saquon's at 3.5 or whatever, you owe it to the offense and to the team to maybe up his role a little bit, but he's never going to be. I mean, he might go from 4 to 7, and Saquon go from 26 to 23. But it is curious to me that when Bigsby gets in there, man, he takes off and makes plays that Saquon has not been making.
Yeah, I'm with you. The next three I want to read back to back to back.
Oh, this is like one of my observations. That's got an A, B, and a C.
First one is from Damien. How is Adoree still on the team, let alone starting? I haven't seen a single promising game from him. Give JB a shot. I just don't understand.
What's the date on that one?
That date was from Sunday, early in the game.
Gave a big play. I thought he played pretty well after that.
Timothy, I refuse to believe that Adoree Jackson is better than Keely Ringo. I'm not even saying Ringo was good, but I'm saying he's better than Jackson. Why does Adoree play over Keely? I can't be the only person who sees this. At least Keely can give you big play potential. Adoree is a cone. I know you both see it too.
A cone?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then from Andrew, Adoree Jackson played quite well against the Lions. He wasn't bad against the Packers either. If you don't notice someone making mistakes, that's a positive. As it looked like he's made adjustments to his struggles earlier in the season, or is it more likely the result of a more successful pass rush and Nakobe coming back that is helping the secondary?
Yeah, I think that all goes into it.
Yeah, so some of that's the danger of emailing us during a game, because he did give up the play to Jameson Williams, which is really tough duty, but then he came back with that 3rd and 15. PBU.
Yeah. And I thought really after the Jameson Williams play, he was pretty solid in general. He was sticky. Look, I think he really had to convince Vic. I mean, Vic kind of, his default is Keeley. He wants Keeley to work out, but he's just playing better than Keeley. So he's going to keep playing.
I don't think it's ideal that they've landed on Adoree Jackson.
Yeah.
When you think back to the competition in the summer and then trading for Jacorian Bennett and then trading for Jair Alexander, and even you can throw the Michael Carter trade in the mix too. I don't think they wanted to land on Adoree Jackson, but he might just be their best option.
Yeah.
And I think they have, the pass rush has obviously helped, and I think they've deployed him a little bit differently and Quinyon Mitchell a bit differently that has helped them too. So I don't think it's all just Adoree playing better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Challenge Sunday is going to be huge.
Yeah.
So, Pickens is having a hell of a year.
He's a very good player.
Yeah.
Here we go from John. Hey guys, with the crushing news of Lane's injury, it's pretty clear that Big Fred will be starting at right tackle for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
At least.
Given that Fred was contributing so much in the jumbo package recently, is there any chance we could see Willie Lampkin take on a similar role in the meantime? Obviously a much different body type from Fred, but I'd much prefer to see him bully defenders over Matt Pryor. What's it going to take for us to see Willie get some playing time with the starters in 2025? And I want to point out, this was one of 2 Willie Lampkin emails we got about pretty much the same idea of playing him as an extra lineman.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll see that. Pryor played, 4 snaps?
Mm-hmm.
After the Lane injury that forced Fred to play right tackle. Yeah, I don't think that's in the plans. I mean, I'd like to see Willie Lampkin just because I just want to see this kid play.
Yeah, and he's like he's more of an interior lineman.
Yeah.
So I don't know how comfortable he'd be playing on the end of the line like that, even further than a tackle would play.
Yeah.
But in the future, I think he's a fun player that, man, I think there's a way to use him, an inventive way to use him, whether it's a lead blocker or some kind of a pulling tight end. But he's also a rookie, undrafted player who hasn't stepped foot in a regular season game yet. So
and is with his second team and is coming off a long injury layoff.
Yeah, the second team one doesn't bother me as much because they wanted to keep him in LA.
I don't mean that. I just mean as far as learning a new system.
Okay.
I mean, he wasn't here for the summer.
Okay. Next one is from Matthew. How do you think players that leave the Eagles like Mekhi Becton feel watching a game from their sofa after getting demolished by the Jaguars, knowing this current team is missing them so badly? Sure, human nature and a business. I think all of us would take more money to go to another employer, except Rube's lifetime commitment to NBC. But as athletes and competitors, I have to think players sometimes have buyer's remorse after moving to Arizona like Josh Sweat, or a team that isn't as successful as an organization for a 10% raise. Ever ask a player that kind of question? Thanks for all you do.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've talked to a lot of former players who left here. I remember Lito Shepard telling me, the dumbest thing I ever did was leaving Philly. He said, you go other places, you're not winning. The fans don't care. He says, you're making a little more money, but you feel irrelevant. Like you're just playing on some team somewhere where nobody's noticing. He said, when you play for the Eagles, and I've heard a lot of players echo this, maybe not quite so eloquently as Lito. He said, when you leave the Eagles, you're leaving behind. And he didn't even play for Nick or anything. I mean, he played, but this is kind of a Jeff Lurie thing. I mean, he makes this a place where people want to play football, and they always win. They're always on. They play 5 or 6 night games every year. They're going to Super Bowls. I've talked to a lot of players who have regretted going somewhere else. Now, like in Josh Sweat's case, they weren't going to pay him that. They just didn't have the money, and they had other edges. But guys who've left on their own accord to get a big contract and could have stayed, to a man, they regret it.
Yeah, I don't think it's everyone. It's not a across the board thing. I've talked to players who have played here and it wasn't for them.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I'm sure Bryce Huff isn't sitting there saying, "I wish I was in Philly."
Yeah. But and look, it's a limited earning window for an NFL player. So if it really is a big difference, they're obviously going to do it. Yeah, but I think some players have taken less money to stay here or other places because they like the situation, they're
Sure.
comfortable with it. That happens too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think Jeff Lurie has made this a place where players want to stay. Not everybody, but players want to stay here. And if you're playing somewhere else, well, Jalen Phillips said it was the happiest day of his life getting traded here. So, I mean, they have a chance to be in their fourth Super Bowl since 2017. That's something that, players want to be a part of.
Sure. Eagle at NBCUni.com if you have a question for us. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor. Rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, subscribe there as well. Rube, any final thoughts?
Would 3 Super Bowl championships from 17 to 25, so in 9 years, would that constitute a dynasty, or does it have to be more compressed?
I think more compressed.
Probably, right? Like 3 and
initial reaction.
3 and 5 years, 3 and 6 years.
But this, I mean, if they were to win another one this year, that would be 3 trips in 4 seasons and 2 wins.
Yeah, I think you need 3 wins to really call yourself a dynasty.
Okay.
Chiefs, Steelers in the 70s, Patriots, obviously.
I can't wait for 2027 when they're going for, 5 in a row, and we're saying, yeah, but the offense is.
Yeah. Yeah. Good questions today.
All right, Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. We'll be back later in the week to break down Eagles Cowboys getting ready for a fun one at AT&T Stadium. That's a wrap for this Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.